Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to WCNC Plus Live Weather Impact. I'm meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees, and we have a lot to talk about when it comes to winter weather tomorrow. But the first thing I want to start with is there is no chance for accumulating snowfall here in Charlotte tomorrow. I know that's a bummer for snow lovers, but we are not going to see snow here in Charlotte. Now, could we briefly see a flake? Sure, in parts of the Piedmont, but we'll talk more about that coming up. First things first, I want you to be aware of, again, this is Friday morning through midday tomorrow, winter weather impact alert for the mountains and foothills. So this is going to be along and north of the I-40 corridor. Best way to stay safe is, of course, keeping a close eye on the forecast. Make sure that you're watching WCNC Charlotte or WCNC Plus and staying up to date on what's happening. And watch elevated roadways such as bridges and overpasses. Remember, those freeze first when it comes to black ice potential because there's cold air on top and on bottom. Plus the fact those colder areas, especially 3,500 feet and above, will be the most likely to see ice because they're the places that will stay colder longer. And we'll talk about why that is and what that means coming up, of course, throughout the show. So what's happening right now? Well, we have the storm system again approaching us from the west, expecting areas of snow in the mountains. But what's already happened today is a lot of this rain ahead of the main system has really tried to move in, but it hasn't gotten in. I mean, that's because of dry air closer to the ground. We talk about this a lot, especially during the summer months when it starts to transition into fall and then vice versa, transitioning from spring into summer. When we have dry air closer to the ground, it doesn't allow sometimes for this moisture to reach us. So satellite radar could be showing rain, but it's actually not reaching the ground. And right now we're dealing with this with dry air in the Piedmont. We're seeing dew points in the 30s and then teens up in the mountains. So how does this normally start to overcome? Because we know that there's been dry times of the year like the winter where we have had moisture reach the ground. Well, it's hours and hours of that moisture falling and trying to reach the ground that will eventually saturate the atmosphere and help us out. Now, we don't need it to be as wet as we do during the summer, but we do need it to be a little bit wetter than it is right now. So you see our winter weather impacts 0 when it comes to winter weather along and south of the I-40 corridor. I think that's very clear to see. In fact, I'm going to go back for a second so we can see it again. There you go. I-40 and south, no winter weather impacts. One big change from yesterday is the fact that we have a lot less medium on the map, which is great news. You can see those pockets of yellow, especially at those higher elevation spots in Ashwaubenon, Avery County, as well as over just east of Asheville. There's a teeny tiny little sliver there of some orange. That again is those really high elevation spots such as Grandfather Mountain. And then that other orange spot near Asheville is over toward Mount Mitchell. So again, higher elevation spots, slightly higher chance of ice. And again, we'll talk more about that in just a second. So here's your precipitation timeline. I've trimmed back a lot. And also, if you notice, the time at the top started at about 2 hours early. Reason why, again, moisture starting to come in early. And also, we're going to see a much quicker changeover when it comes to cold rain. So the biggest things that have changed over the last 24 hours, truthfully, should have led with that, is that dry air I just mentioned, and the fact that the system is moving in quicker, which means lesser accumulation and again, lesser chance of seeing ice. So most of the snow in the mountains wrapping up between about 12 and 2, and it's kind of the same for Hickory all the way down toward the Piedmont. Now you'll notice Gastonia, Charlotte, Monroe, Rock Hill, I still did leave in that stray flake or pellet, sleet pellet in on our map, and that's because that 4 to 8 a.m. time frame is where we are the coldest. So if there's still moisture around, it's not out of the question that we couldn't see a flake or a pellet mixed in with that cold rain, but it is primarily cold rain, which is why we're not expecting any winter weather impacts. Hickory, Statesville, so I-40 corridor north up toward the mountains, you're going to see that snow very early and then a very quick changeover to cold rain because the system's moving quicker. Temperatures are going to stay warmer during the rain longer. That will make more sense coming up. And then, of course, up in the mountains, we're expecting snow to stay pretty steady. So the line between snow to rain is a lot thinner than it was yesterday, but we're still expecting that line again to be near the I-40 corridor. That hasn't changed. All right. Favorite graphic I've used so far today, even though it's Futurecast, which seems boring, but the reason why is because it says a lot. This tells a lot of the story. So notice the timing here, 11 o'clock. This is just starting to bring that snow up in the mountains. And notice the temperatures there are freezing. A few areas you can see 37 there toward Morganton, seeing a little bit of a mix, but again, nothing crazy. You'll notice the snow stays primarily snow through the early morning hours. Here's 2 a.m. So this rain, this 2 a.m. rain, yesterday was trending closer to 6. So with the temperatures at 43, when we're seeing our best chance of rain, there's no chance of that flake or pellet because the temperatures are so much higher above freezing. And so again, it's the earlier time frame here that allows for less accumulation, but also a lesser chance that we'll see wintry weather. Here's 5, temperatures starting to trend colder. But notice at the coldest time of the morning, 8 o'clock, most of those areas are dry. So again, that's why I kept that 4 to 8 time frame for a stray pellet or flake in still, just in case, but we're not expecting it. Now, once the moisture starts to move out, you can see Charlotte area will probably see some areas of fog, light rain, patchy drizzle, but that'll be it. But the mountain communities will continuously see that snow. And then where temperatures are the coldest, again, at those higher elevation spots, they could eventually see ice mixing in too. And then a refreeze possibility overnight in the mountains. Not expecting, of course, that in the Charlotte area because our temperatures actually stay above freezing all the way through Saturday morning thanks to clouds. So tomorrow afternoon, even outside of the cold rain, it's going to be very chilly. That will be the same chance Saturday morning. Lots of clouds, chilly. Notice temperatures not falling out of the upper 30s. But finally, a little bit of sunshine mixing in Saturday afternoon before sunset goes down again. So Saturday we'll start off with that kind of same patchy, freezing fog, drizzly kind of mess, and then it should get better throughout the day, just in time, of course, to get out and about on Saturday afternoon and evening for the ACC championship game in Charlotte. So brief snowflake or sleet pellet, again, you can see that mainly south of the I-40 corridor, but totals, again, have trimmed back since yesterday. Really the best chance to see accumulating snowfall above, let's say, an inch or so will be north of us over toward the Ashe County area and all the way up toward Virginia. So it's not a non-event for the North Carolina mountains, but even for those that do see accumulation, it is not going to be significant accumulation. So here's your hourly forecast for Charlotte tomorrow. Again, we start with a better chance for rain. It's very quickly tapering off throughout the day, even though it'll stay chilly with lots of cloud cover. Here's Hickory, Statesville. You can see again rain, staying a little bit rainier later there than in Charlotte, but also staying pretty chilly throughout the afternoon and evening. And of course, here's Boom. Areas of snow in the morning. Again, a very quick change over there to rain, and then we're clearing out by the afternoon. Higher elevation spots, so 3,500 feet and above, will still see a chance for some ice because their temperatures are going to stay colder longer than us here in the Charlotte area. So quick look here at our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Again, we're still keeping folks weather impact alert, but that's mainly for those mountain communities because of that chance for snow, sleet, and rain mixing in, and then cold still, chilly for our Magical Toy Drive event on Saturday, but at least it's not going to be a mess on the roadways like we're expecting for tomorrow morning. So, of course, we'll talk much more about the forecast coming up when it comes to tomorrow's snowfall potential with Tim coming up in just a few minutes, because parts of the Greensboro area that he forecast for probably will see a better chance than us here in Charlotte. We'll be right back after this 2-minute break. Happy Thursday, Tim.
Hello, a pleasure to see you on a Thursday. Hope you're doing well.
It's a pleasure to see you too, although it has not been a pleasure to forecast for this winter weather. Are you as exhausted as I am?
I always joke with people, you know, when you come to work on a snow day or a winter weather day or whatever kind of big weather day it is, they always say, gosh, are you ready to work really hard today? To me, I always actually think, you know, from our job's point of view, I think the hard work are the days leading up to it, because that's really when we're pulling our hair out, trying to figure out the details, do all the planning, all the logistics, and getting the word out. And then the day of is just, okay, you just kind of say what's going on. That's not really the hard part to me. But it has been, as usual, a bit of a tricky forecast. And I think today, Brittany, some of the trends that we're seeing, in my mind, it's probably reducing the risk or reducing the chance of snow for some people as those rain snow lines drift north a little bit. So that's something that we'll have to be getting into over the next little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's the preparation beforehand. And at least for us in Charlotte, I know that your forecast is a little bit different than us. I mean, we're 100% that we're not seeing snow here, right, other than a brief flake potential. So
right.
I think for us, it's like the fighting of the misinformation, because we got, school systems coming out and saying that they're watching the chance. So, we're getting off the air immediately saying there's no chance.
Sure.
And so you're fighting the misinformation not only from all aspects there, but then also online, on social media. So I don't know if you saw Brad's little fun rant. He's at a conference, which is why he's not here today. But it was about how he didn't want to hear anybody ask him tomorrow where was the snow, because he said from the beginning there wasn't going to be any. So
one of these days we're all going to lose it. I do think that is true. But yeah, winter weather, of all the kinds of weather, and I say this a lot, of all the kinds of weather, winter weather is the most emotional, because winter weather can be really fun if you love snow, or a lot of people detest snow. And so one way or another, people get emotional about it. You can get hopes up. And a lot of times, honestly, humans behave this way. We hear what we want to hear. And there are a lot of places to get information. And if you love snow, you're going to find that information that says you're getting a foot. And if you hate it, well, maybe you find the other way. But just try and keep your emotions in check. It's just the weather. We'll all be okay at the end of the day.
Yeah, what do they call that? Confirmation bias, where you're just looking for the answer that you already wanted. Yeah. But on that note, we could be impacted in the Carolinas tomorrow by multiple different types of weather. Some seeing snow, some seeing a mix, some seeing just cold rain. So the first story we're going to show you today is our very own meteorologist, Chris Mulcahy. I've been friends with him for 5 years, and I just messed up his last name. Chris Mulcahy, to talk a little bit more about the different winter weather types.
Winter weather can be tranquil, a picturesque landscape, but it can also look like this. Here are all the different types of winter weather in our latest Weather IQ. Falling snow has several names. Snow flurries means that just a little snow is falling over a short period of time. A light dusting is the most you'll see. Snow showers can vary in intensity. They are heavier than flurries, but also don't last long. Snow accumulations can range from a coating up to a couple of inches. The heaviest snow bands are called snow squalls. Snow squalls are brief but intense snow showers that accompany gustier winds. Snow accumulations can be significant. These are most common around the Great Lakes during lake effect storms. The term snowstorm brings a combination of snow showers and snow squalls over a longer period of time. Strong winds can blow snow, cause snow drifts, reduce visibilities, and make driving treacherous. A blizzard has a specific criteria though. It must last 3 hours or longer, have sustained winds or frequent gusts of 35 miles per hour or greater, and considerable falling or blowing snow needs to reduce visibilities to less than a quarter of a mile. But winter isn't all about snow. When snow falls through layers of air that are above freezing, 3 different things can happen. 1, graupel, which is known as soft hail, 2, sleet, which are ice pellets, and 3, freezing rain that can cover everything in ice. When freezing rain lasts for several hours, it becomes an ice storm. An ice storm warning means over a quarter inch of ice is possible, where a half inch or more of ice can snap power lines, leading to widespread power outages. An ice storm is the most dangerous winter weather to drive in, and it even makes walking treacherous. And there you have it. You're all now a little bit more winter-wise. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy with WCNC Charlotte.
Well, at least we can say with certainty that there's not going to be a blizzard tomorrow.
No, there's not. And that word gets thrown around quite often. We've not really ever had blizzard conditions in most of the Carolinas by the true definition of the word. The mountains are the big exception. Boy, can it happen up there with the wind. But it's really hard to do a true blizzard with that, biting wind and low visibility. Just really tough to do.
So what do you feel like, Tim, other than the fact that the system is moving quicker, which would mean less accumulation and the dry air intrusion kind of throwing a wrench in things, is there anything else that for you guys up toward the triad that you've noticed with the trends over the last day and a half?
The main trends and kind of one of the things I think that we've noticed, and you probably noticed too, is it's moving more quickly, which initially, if it moved a little bit more quickly, I thought, okay, that would actually give us a better chance for snow. But there's a difference between this thing starting out at like 1 in the morning versus starting out at like 4 in the morning. At 1 in the morning, we still might not yet have enough cold air to actually take advantage of, because that cold air isn't here just yet. It's actually getting in place. So we don't really want the moisture to beat it, because if the moisture gets here first, then it's going to be liquid, and you're going to waste some of that liquid falling down from the sky as rain rather than being able to freeze it as snow. We only have a little bit of liquid to play with in the first place, just a couple tenths of an inch or so. So if you're wasting a couple of hours of that with it falling as rain before we get the cold air, you might only end up in Greensboro and in Winston-Salem and further north. You might only end up getting a couple of hours where it could be actually falling as snow or mixing in with a little bit of sleet. So that earlier arrival, Brittany, I think is actually maybe working against us rather than for us, if you like winter weather.
I completely agree, because our rain, it looks to start around the same time you said, 1 a.m. to 1 to 4, it seems most widespread. And I know that sometimes there's not a substantial difference between Greensboro and Charlotte, but even the difference of 4 to 5 degrees, it seems like we're going to be for us, could mean that you could have stuff that we don't have. And so I think that's the big thing for Charlotte and most of our metro communities is that we're just not going to be cold enough. Even if we waited until the coldest part of the morning, our low tonight is 39.
Right. And that's not going to cut it. And having said that, one of the things that I think we've explained before pretty well is that you don't need to be 32 degrees to get snow. It just needs to be cold almost all the way to the ground. And if the snow's coming down hard enough, it can survive that trip. But for Charlotte, there's just no way. There's no way it's going to happen for you. And in our area up here, I think, even Lexington's and Asheboro's and places like that, there's not a chance in the world that you're going to have snowflakes tonight. I really think it's more or less I-40 northward, which we joke about a lot. I-40, I-85, why are they these imaginary barriers? But
true.
It does seem that this time around, it's going to be somewhat of a good guide to who could have some of that snowfall. And Sean, I can pull up my snowfall map here for our viewers in the Triad area and just kind of see or show them at least what we're expecting. We adjusted this northward a little bit from yesterday, just kind of sliding those lines up a little bit and edited the numbers too. So only calling for about a trace to a half an inch. A trace, we just mean that would be flakes in the air. A coating would be a little more than that, and then a half an inch is self-explanatory. But that kind of covers all of Forsyth, all of Guilford, all of Alamance counties, the busy I-40 corridor. And then farther north, you have a hope and a prayer to maybe get more than that. Half an inch to 1, maybe 2. Closer up to Danville, Virginia, Mount Airy, those kind of areas. And then elevation can help you out if you're in the North Carolina mountains. But I think this is kind of the same map that y'all have been showing, Brittany, but just kind of with a little bit more focus on the Triad area. You'd like it to be a little bit snowier if you're a snow fan.
Definitely would. And I think in Charlotte, between that 4 and 8 o'clock time frame, where it's going to be the coldest, as you mentioned about how if the snow is heavy enough and if it's cold, you can get a brief. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that we couldn't have like a flake or maybe even a sleet pellet mixed in there. But that's going to be while many folks are either just getting up or still asleep. So even if that happens, you might be asleep and sleep right through it. And on top of that, I wouldn't suggest for a stray flake that could be 50 miles away from where you live that you should get up extra early just to see that. Doesn't look like it's going to be a surprise burst like what we had a few weeks ago.
No, probably not. And another thing that's changed actually from a couple of days ago, Brittany, is it looked like the cold air wedge was a little bit stronger, modeled at one point, and that might have allowed for more of what we would call more of a freezing rain threat. I don't really see that anymore. There's not really a big threat for ice because our ground temperatures aren't going to be below freezing very much at all. So the icing threat isn't all that high. You could hear the sleet, and just like Chris was explaining in the package there, remember, if you can hear it pinging off the windows, that's not freezing rain. That's sleet. And it comes with donut analogies. Freezing rain is the glazed donut, and the sleet, that's like the sprinkle donut. So you might have some of those sprinkle donuts out there tomorrow.
Wait, do you want to know what one of my ways that I explain sleet to the kids at schools? You're going to laugh at this. Okay, so
Please.
you know when you eat a gallon, when you're eating ice cream out of a carton. Okay. And you're eating it, and it starts to melt, right? So you put it back in the freezer. The next day you get it back out, and it's got like the little ice on it, and you start to eat it again, and it doesn't taste bad, but it just never really tastes the same. I'm like, that's sleep, because the snowflake melts and it refreezes, but it can never be the same again.
That's true. And boy, you're right about that. That ice cream is never quite as good once you put it back in there.
It never is.
It's kind of like a film. Sometimes I'll cut that out before I go after the rest of it.
Yeah, you should, honestly, because it kind of tastes bad. It kind of tastes really bad. Okay, sorry, it doesn't taste bad. It doesn't taste as good as the regular ice cream. And obviously, we've talked about this too, Tim, all week pretty much. It's not just this winter storm, that's going to be impacting areas mainly north of us. It's not just the rain we had on Tuesday. But this wedge has kept us locked in with a lot of cold air and a lot of clouds. And looks like it will still in the near term, even once this rain tomorrow is over.
Yeah.
So we are going to go to a story by yours truly on what a wedge is, and we'll be right back. Oh, the wedge. Wait, not this kind of wedge. The kind of wedge that causes cool and cloudy conditions in the Carolinas. Be right back. Okay, I made it. If you're from the Carolinas, it's a common term, but if you're not sure what the wedge is, that's okay, because today we're raising your weather IQ. Cold air damming, or the wedge, is a term local meteorologists use when cold air is wedged up against the Appalachian Mountains. These events are most common in the Carolinas during winter and early spring, especially December and March. To kickstart the wedge, high pressure pushes eastward. Winds around the high pressure rotate clockwise, so they draw cold air from the north to the south. This traps the cold air on the eastern slopes. Another storm system brings warmer, less dense air over the stagnant cold layer. Eventually, the warm air condenses, forming precipitation, leading to cold rain or winter precip, depending on the depth of the cold air. In the Carolinas, we often get stuck with clouds, fog, and drizzle as that cold air gets trapped. This complicates forecasting, allowing for highs inland to be up to 30 degrees colder than near the coast. This cold air damming setup is the most common, known as a classic CAT event. There is also in situ cold air damming, where the cold air still gets trapped by a high pressure system, but it's too far south. The cold air is produced by evaporation east of the mountains instead of being influenced by another weather system. There's a third type, a hybrid CAT event, which is a combination of the two. Cold air damming also occurs on the front range of the Rockies, where it can cause dangerous ice storms. With your weather IQ, I'm meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees. And yes, I did eat that salad after I recorded that story.
We've worked in donuts, ice cream, and now wedge salad in just about a couple of minutes. You never know what you'll get here on Weather Impact Plus.
Yeah,
yes.
You got to have balance, right? That's what life is all about, balance. Okay, so we talked about the fact...
But it is going to be a miserable day. Yeah,
Sorry,
just
Tim.
to kind of point out that the wedge that you were explaining, even though the precipitation is going to wind down probably by 9, 10 o'clock at the latest, you're still going to be stuck with the clouds, maybe even a little drizzle actually throughout the day. That can happen sometimes unexpectedly. It's just going to be a nasty kind of a day. So like mid-30s in Greensboro, I think, kind of throughout the afternoon. It's not going to be fun to be outside. So just kind of know that going in, that even if the system's not all that bad, it's a miserable kind of a weather day for sure.
Yeah, and that's going to last here too. We'll probably be in the upper 30s as well. And then even it looks like into Saturday morning, because that wedge is going to be so locked in. So we're so cold tomorrow afternoon, even once the rain's over, but we'll still kind of be in the same situation early Saturday. What I also think is interesting, I was looking at some of the long range data for Saturday morning, but Tim, it also looks like similar to, I think it was this morning, we could even have some fog, which, if the temperature is below freezing, could allow for some freezing fog. And I don't think in Charlotte necessarily, because it'll be about 39, but in areas north, we could certainly have another round of freezing fog potential too, which I just think is something people don't hear about a lot.
No, and we talked about that on the show a little bit yesterday, and that was a good call by Brad to kind of highlight that in the forecast. I think it materialized. There was some of that limited visibility, and if you looked out there, it was kind of the frost that's actually beautiful in a way. Like, it really is that frost that kind of coated everything a little bit, and it really was very white. One of the whitest frosts I've noticed this season, actually. So that could be a factor going into Saturday morning, I would say. But it's just amazing how cold we've been for so long. It feels like forever since we've had a warm day. It's probably only been about 10 days now, but we haven't hit 50 since way before Thanksgiving up in Greensboro, so it's been a little while.
Yeah, and we always talk about how we all have like short-term memory loss, and it's like we could be a really, really warm November, but all we remember is like the cold end to the month. Definitely,
yes.
I'm missing those 80-degree November days a little bit right now, but it looks like by the end of the 7-day forecast, we could at least be close to normal again. I don't know if you're seeing that too.
And that would be a big headline, because average highs are still in the mid to upper 50s this time of December. So that would be a big warm up from where we've been. Just about a minute left, though, so I guess just bullet points going into tomorrow. This is going to be starting a little bit after midnight. For Greensboro area, if you're watching from the Triad area, it'll probably start out as some rain, then switching over to snow for a couple of hours. If you're north of I-40, we could get a coating to a half an inch or so. These areas are the counties that have been highlighted by the Weather Service that could see slick roads. We tend to agree north of I-40 has that opportunity to be a little slick and slippery, which is why we've had some school cancellations or remote days. Areas south down towards Charlotte as well. Pretty much just all rain, and just kind of be ready to use the wipers. And I don't know what kind of coat you opt for tomorrow, Brittany. It's got to be a rain jacket, but probably a layer underneath that keeps you warm too.
Yeah, I have a hybrid that has like the hood that has the fur, but also keeps me dry. So that's probably what I'll opt for when I come to work. Yeah, unfortunately, y'all, just a reminder, no snow here in Charlotte, no snow across most of the Piedmont, but there is going to be a very chilly rain. So make sure you're staying tuned and staying safe. Tim, have a great rest of your Thursday.
You too.